Hey, Joel, what's happening, buddy? Can you hear me? Yes, you can. You must have your computer muted there, buddy. Your mic's muted too.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Great. You're a little dark on this end.
Well, I've been tanning lately, so that's a good thing. Does this help? If I get a little light on me?
Yeah, that helps. Yeah.
Okay.
We're just waiting for James and Kev, and we'll start. We got about a minute. Hopefully, they get here soon. I will start at 10, and what I'll do is I'll go through my piece of the deck, and hopefully, they get here after that. Otherwise, it's you and me, baby.
Let's go. Let's do this. Got the let's go syndrome. Let's go.
You want to chase down James, make sure he saw that Zoom link for the host.
Yeah. Let me hit him up.
Oh, here's Kev. There he is. Still waiting for James. I'm going to go ahead and get started because I got a little intro. Hopefully he gets here by the time we need him. If not, we got the guys we need. So I think I'm good. So I'm going to go ahead and start the webinar right now. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Technology Source Virtual Roundtable. I am your host, Rob Olson, Chief Revenue Officer for Technology Source. A little bit about our company before we get into the webinar and start talking to our experts. As a technology advisory firm, Technology Source works alongside our trusted advisors to create best-in-breed solutions to support your business. Technology Source represents over 500 providers in managed IT services, cybersecurity, customer analytics, AI, telecom, and mobility services. Technology Source and our trusted advisor network work closely with our client partners to reduce operational expenses, improve efficiencies, all while helping to deliver an outstanding experience for their customers. And our featured product today really checks all those boxes, which is critical. Each month, Technology Source hosts a virtual roundtable to discuss unique technology solutions with industry experts. Today is no exception, as we will be discussing the impact of AI translation and interpretation services and how it's helping businesses break language barriers globally. So let's take a second to introduce Kevin Francis, Vice President of Sales at CCI Network Services. Good morning, Kevin. I think you're muted, sir. Jor-El Potts, Director of Channel at CCI Network Services. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate this.
Kev, I know we're waiting for James to jump on. He's joining us from an international connection. Give me a little bit of your background as to why you're an expert with AI translation. That'd be helpful for our audience.
I've been working with the One Meta team for just over 2 years now, really helping them as a technology features, what we need to do, add changes. And the thing that is amazing is the progress that we've come in 2 years and been able to bring out this product, and working with James and the rest of the founder over at One Meta, and really getting to understand the why, the how is this different from the human? Why is a human, in some certain scenarios, a human might be okay, but it really, you've got to get down into the analytics and what you're trying to solve. And that's one of the things that I love about this product that we're going to be talking to you guys about today.
Yeah, and we've worked with several of our clients on opportunities with One Meta and applications with One Meta and the AI translation and transcription. And I think the response was pretty eyebrow raising. Customers are really blown away by what the technology can achieve. Jorel, we'll go over to you next. Give us a little bit of your background. I know you're newer to the CCI team, but I thought you had some very valuable insights and perspectives and wanted to make sure that we included you today. So give us a quick introduction if you don't mind.
You got it. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, formerly I was with TSD with AppDirect, and as you know, they're big into AI, big into the large language model. We were even providing studios on building your own AI chatbot to help you, and a lot of my partners have utilized that to really increase their workload. So I've always got a passion for AI, and this is just a natural fit to be with CCI and with One Meta to help out partners like you, like Technology Source.
And let's introduce James Muir next. Thanks very much, Jorel. James is joining us. He's the VP of Service Operations at One Meta, a brilliant individual. We've had some great conversations around the product and applications and solutions, and we're glad to have you here. James, can you give us a little of your background before we get started?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to talk to us today. So James Veer, I'm the VP of Service Ops and Customer Delight, if you will, at One Meta, really getting everybody alive. But I have a pretty varied background of outsourcing services and IT for quite a while. I've been at places like Hewlett-Packard, Disney, Travel and Leisure, Advent Health, so a pretty varied kind of both buyer and seller of IT services. So it is great to talk to you today. Obviously, we're excited to show you what our capabilities are here from an AI translation perspective, and then talk shop just in general on AI if you'd like. So great to meet everybody.
Yeah, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you very much. And I'm sure with the companies you've worked for, they probably have a lot of opportunities to improve their translation and transcription services as they're touching an international audience. And for any business that wants to expand their global footprint, this is by far the least expensive way to get that done. It opens up so many new markets, and we've seen clients really take advantage of this as a growth tool. So we'll go ahead and we've got some questions that we'd like to ask you to get a better idea on what AI is doing in the world of translation and transcription. And then at the end, we're going to go through an in-depth demo of how this works. And I would invite everyone to stick around and watch that, because the technology that's being employed to accomplish this translation in real time is nothing short of incredible. So please stay with us. We have a few questions and answers we want to get from One Meta to understand the product, and then we'll show you a demo to explain exactly how all this works. Okay, so let's get started, and any one of you on the panel can answer the question. I think any one of you would have a unique perspective that we'd want to gather. So how does One Meta's Verbum technology achieve real-time translation and transcription across more than 150 languages and dialects? And what impact does this have on global communication? Who'd like to go first?
I think the thing that it breaks down that barrier of, how do you expand your customer base? How do you fully communicate with some of your customers that have different languages? And this is a great low-cost solution that is real time. And, I'm not going to jump into any of the other questions, but I just think that it's a great way to impact globally with your customers and be able to speak and communicate with your customers.
Great point.
Just to expand on that, crowdsourcing, outsourcing, that's been just the norm lately. We are going to other countries for different models, different helps. So I've seen the frustrations that the language barrier has caused a lot of my partners and customers. So this is a great product to really just alleviate that and show them what we can do.
Fantastic. One of the things that I learned, James, from our conversation was how important the dialects were in the accuracy. As an example, I think it was either you or Jonathan that stated that in the UK, a cookie is called a biscuit. And so if you're not paying attention to dialects, your accuracy of the translation drops significantly. What can you tell us about that accuracy and the importance of the dialects?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So the joke I like to use is, Jonathan's my peer in London, and I live here in Orlando. So he thinks biscuits are cookies. I think biscuits need gravy. So like that's kind of the distinction. But What I'd like to point out is the reason that we talk about dialects and locations and not necessarily languages is there is enough variance from Spanish Mexico, Spanish Colombia, Spanish Chile, Spanish United States that if you're not deploying at a regional or a dialect level, you're not going to get the level of accuracy that you're looking for. And there's enough variance in simple like English. Everybody on the call today probably speaks English. But if I said to you, let's meet at 3 bells, would you know what that meant? Well, in England, that means 3 o'clock. But I didn't know that until I started working with someone from England. So that's why you really want to create that level of regional specificity and then build against that training with your domain specific knowledge. And by domain specific, I mean deploy Spanish United States, but with healthcare knowledge or with financial knowledge or with marketing knowledge. Those are all the ways that you create the level of accuracy and the customer delight. Because again, if you're really trying to deploy this, you're trying to do either a few things. You really want to support your clients in their native language and create a better customer experience. Or maybe on the technology side, it's really hard to staff 5 languages, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you have a scenario where maybe you're going to get 2 calls on a Saturday night for German, do you really want to staff a person who speaks German to manage 2 calls on a Saturday night? And the answer is no. And this level of technology allows you to still meet your customers' needs, but also create better technology savings within your client base.
I see. Good. And real time, how are you defining real time? I think that's an important consideration.
I think for us, real time means that you will hear that interaction within 1/8 of a. You'll hear and watch the transcription within 1/8 of a second. It's just milliseconds. And so now within the product today in the demo, there'll be about a half a second delay from when I stop speaking to when you hear a voice. But that's configurable because the AI is just trying to make sure that I'm done speaking before it starts translating. But real time is that I speak, you hear. They speak, you hear, and there isn't a 30-second, a 40-second, a 50-second delay or anything like that.
Yeah, it's incredible technology. All right, well, next question. In what ways does Verbum Call enhance customer service experiences compared to traditional interpretation methods?
Well, I like the way that it enhances because you can get to the conversation much quicker. With using the traditional method or a human interpreter, you may wait 10, 20 minutes, an hour, depending on what language that you're waiting for. And what kind of a customer experience or is that where you've got to wait over an hour to have your conversation taken care of? With this, it's instantaneous. Bridge on the AI. Now you can communicate in any language. You can do German, Mexico. You can do Argentina, France. And the combination is endless, and it allows you to be able to quickly resolve that customer's phone call and hopefully with a high satisfaction experience.
So a global conference call with multiple languages is something you can manage.
Correct.
That's interesting.
And there's also a cost perspective that you need to look at, with the traditional interpretation that they can get expensive very, very quick, where one meta Verbum is actually in comparison quite cheap in relation, and it's faster and has better accuracy.
Great. James, anything you want to add, sir?
No, I think, again, just with 152 potential dialects, you can really expand the pool of clients you can speak to in their native language versus just Spanish or just French. So from a customer service perspective, nothing says I care about you like talking to you in your own language.
Agreed. And I found some interesting statistics. Jorel, you mentioned cost savings, and what I found, and this is probably not reflective of one meta. I think it's probably even more impactful than this data, but 60 to 80% cost reduction when using AI-assisted translation compared to human only. So there is, to your point, a very big impact on cost. And that translates into about $100,000 savings annually on average. And that's one of the statistics I found on the cost advantages of what you're doing. But there's another piece to this, right? And that's customer experience. Businesses using AI translation from multilingual customer support report up to a 25% reduction in customer resolution time and 20% higher satisfaction rates. Look, a one-star review, statistics show if you lose 1 star, it costs your business 40% of its revenue. So that experience is kind of all-encompassing and very, very important. James, is there anything you want to tack on top of that, or any thoughts you have regarding that experience?
No, I don't know that I can elaborate on it more than what you just said. Obviously, there are real cost levers here to not only create a better experience, but really lower technology delivery costs. So it's not often you get to do both. Usually it's one or the other. So
Fantastic. Agreed. What impact does One Meta's multilingual support have on customer loyalty and satisfaction? Anything on customer loyalty? Well, we know the statistics on satisfaction, but loyalty is another component, right? Because if you are working with a business today and they don't speak your language and you have no way to communicate, you're probably not going to be very loyal to them. You're going to have to look for another option. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do have a partner that's out of Phoenix that was dealing with Telmex and Claro, and the language barrier got very frustrating, and it was impacting the customer's perspective on getting meaningful updates, getting just exactly what they needed in a timely manner. They started using Verbum Call. Suddenly, the impact was immense. Customer was getting exactly the updates that they are needing, and they're going to have a customer for life. So if you don't bring down that barrier, you could be losing out on quite a few customers.
Yeah, I find that even if someone does speak English, if they speak broken English, it's very difficult to understand what they're saying because there's contextual things that get lost, right? And that impacts the experience, right? It's not a frictionless experience if you're struggling to understand what the person is saying. And most retailers are searching for that frictionless experience, which is critical to customer satisfaction. Great.
I would say that one other thing here, just within this structure, is really market expansion. We've had several clients recently that said, okay, well, we don't speak Spanish here, but we have this subset of Hispanic population in my community. How do I approach those? Because today I can't service those folks. And a tool like this gives you opportunity that maybe they wouldn't have had before, rather than going out and hiring 10 sales folks who speak Spanish as well. They're able to leverage this as part of their marketing engagement and campaigns. So from a satisfaction perspective, they would have never approached that group of people in their community, but now they can.
Yeah, and going back to the broken English comment earlier, I mean, you could use this to translate that into English, correct? So even if someone spoke English but didn't speak very well and customers had a hard time understanding it, you can translate English to English. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that is true. We can also do English to English. And I think specifically our Spanish United States model handles Spanglish, is what I would call that, where they're kind of falling in and out of Spanish and English just based on that broken English concept. But the other thing to think is people speaking broken English, they are thinking in Spanish likely, and then trying to articulate out in English what they want to say. So giving them the opportunity to just speak to you in Spanish is a much better experience for them.
Correct. I agree. So next question here is, how does One Meta ensure accuracy and reliability of its AI-driven translations? We spoke about how people will summarize. We spoke about the challenge of dialects. There's also technology and jargon, right? So how do you ensure accuracy and reliability with all of those challenges?
The beautiful thing is with each customer gets their own tenant or instance of the One Meta Verbum Call platform. And so you may have a customer that has heavy terms and definitions, or they want words pronounced a certain way. The beautiful thing is you get to train the AI, and the more dictionaries, the more libraries that we put in and allow the AI to understand those dictionaries is actually going to give you a better accuracy on the back end.
Yep. And this is just getting better from here, from 2025 on. It's learning, it's figuring things out. It is just getting exponentially better and better as time progresses.
Great. James?
Yeah, maybe a bit of a technical nerdery answer to that. So on top of just the idea we can do custom data dictionaries and put your proper nouns and your product names and custom data set deployments for you, the general models are built and we use what are broadly the industry measures to know, is this accurate? So your base models will get blue scores, which is VLEU. We'll do Levenstein distance method. We use Meteor in some cases, that's METEOR, just to make sure when we deploy just the general robust model that our level of accuracy is in that upper 80s, low 90s. So when it comes to doing deployments for a customer, it doesn't take months. It takes days or a few weeks to get these clients live, but that's how we make sure we ensure that kind of accuracy of their specific deployment of the tooling itself.
So if you're in an industry that has a lot of technical jargon, you can train it to understand whether it's medical, engineering, right? You can train it around your jargon specifically, but yet that's not held in your database. And that kind of raises another question, which we're going to talk about in a minute regarding security. But most of these platforms, there is no firewalls. That data is absorbed into their network and could potentially be shared with anyone. What you've done is really kind of built a miniature large language model for each client, that while you have your base translations built into it, anything that they want to teach specific to their industry or their products is their property and stored in their cluster, which I think is a breakthrough for what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And by the way, from a speed perspective, your product is delivering a 90% reduction in translation time. That's just a huge number that you got to kind of build into the equation of customer experience when using a translation services. How fast is it? If you have to wait every time someone speaks and then listen to the translation, that's frustrating to me. Interesting question here. In what ways does One Meta's technology contribute to inclusivity and accessibility in education and healthcare settings?
Well, there is a federal mandate out there that for education, that the schools must speak the language of the parent. So this is a great tool that will allow the schools to be able to communicate in the language of the parent. So that's something that it's inclusive of all, and it allows everybody to have that communication in their given language and understand, what's going on at the school. Same with healthcare, and it allows the doctors, instead of having to hire. I was talking to my doctor a few months ago about this. He goes, it's frustrating to him because he has to know when he has to hire somebody to come in to sit there. He gets charged so much for at least 2 hours, and what he gets paid for by the insurance doesn't even cover that cost. So this will allow the doctors to be able to instantly reduce and make more money on per visits.
Well, and it's a fixed cost too, so you can build it into your cost model in the first place versus a human translator, right? Or having to have someone sit there and type everything into a translation system and have it then, pop out the response. James, any thoughts here on your end?
Yeah, I'm going to give you just 2 real use cases. A school district in Texas, a call last week, a parent who speaks Vietnamese, a counselor who needed to talk to them about the IEP for their special needs child. That call took 2.5 hours. Think about how would they have communicated in Vietnamese otherwise? So use case number 1, real world use case. How is it helping in education? Healthcare, we have a client that does non-emergency transport for medical appointments. So, hey, I'm going to call tomorrow and I need to get to the kidney center to do dialysis for the next 4 weeks. How am I going to arrange that care? And now suddenly they can service that client in Mandarin. And that happened yesterday. So real world use cases of how companies are deploying this to expand their care and their customer service to their customers.
There was a question here from Mario. He's asking if One Meta can translate a podcast in real time or offer translation to recorded podcast.
We absolutely can do post-call translation on a podcast. We certainly could work out, like, the technology is there to do real-time translation of a podcast as well, and so that you would think like some of you may have seen the Verbal Meetings product, but it has the ability to do speech to text and then text to text. So when I speak, it can show it in different textual forms across 152 different languages. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is still yes, but we would just need to understand how you wanted to deploy it, because we have 5 different products, I think, that meet some of the different needs you're talking about.
Mario, there's one other additional thing that they can do, and that's transcription. So you'll get a breakdown of everything that was in the conversation, which I think is very helpful following that call. So you can listen to or read what customer questions were and what the responses were. And so I do like the transcription piece. I know that's a very unique piece of what you do. I don't believe there's anybody else that does the transcriptions as well. What distinguishes One Meta's approach to multilingual communication from traditional translation services? What makes it different?
Kevin, why don't you go first, and then I'll pick it up after.
No, go ahead.
So again, what are you really trying to get from an AI interpreter, and how does it make it better? So you bring in a person, and the person, number one, can only take in 1 or 2 lines of text at a time.
Yep.
I can't do 3, 4, 5. I can't do a paragraph and tell it to a translator. That's not going to work. AI, they'll just listen to you, and it'll go ahead and display it back to you in the language that you're talking about. So like, that's really priority one, is we're able to do things a human can't do, because a human was going to work in these super bite-sized chunks, because they can't do it. Humans are also incented to do things like keep talking, because there's a financial incentive for a human interpreter to continue to talk. I'm not saying that they are all doing untoward things, but there's probably a lot of, can you repeat that, in my conversations with human translators, both just because there's a lot of complexity, specifically if you're talking medical or healthcare or legal or financial. Now, we can train those models to give you that level of accuracy that's going to far exceed what a human can do, because we can do custom data dictionary training. We can do proper nouns. We can do product names. All of these are things that traditional language providers by people can't necessarily do. And if you do want more comprehensive language training for a person, like say I want to have a certified medical translator, the amount of cost that lives behind that. So now if I need a medical translator that's just Spanish, it's no longer 40 cents or 50 cents a minute. It's $2 a minute. It's $3 a minute. And if I need Mandarin or Swahili or different flavors of French or German, those are all dollars a minute. And then our AI isn't going to necessarily have that same cost profile. So that's what's going to distinguish the capability, on top of the things like it's super fast and it's always available, and you don't wait for a person, and you don't have to schedule it ahead of time. And like, beyond all of that, those are the key distinguishers, I think.
No, absolutely. I did have a doctor on with your CEO, and he did a demo of the service, and the doctor tried to trip up the translation system by throwing out some medical terms. And one of the things that was really surprising to me is how well it handled that without having that learning experience beforehand. It was able to transcribe and translate these medical terms. So really, really impressive work that's been done by One Meta on this product. Jorel, Kevin, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, the only thing that I would add is, James has already, mentioned it, is where human to human, our brains just can't keep up. So we've got to paraphrase, we've got to truncate, we've got to summarize, and some of the details may be lost in that summary from a human to human.
Great point. No, absolutely right. Data security. Obviously a priority for U.S. businesses. How does Verbum Call segregate data and protect IP gathered during translation and interpretation? And then there's a secondary question here, is how do you enable compliance?
So I'll probably just dive in here, gents, if that's okay. So the architecture by nature is multi-tenancy. So again, there's a cluster, and within the cluster, there are tenants, and that tenant structure has complete data autonomy. So let's think if I have Coke and Pepsi as the same client, I don't want to share data. So I'm going to deploy the general models for English and Spanish or French and Swahili, whatever that language pair is. And then I'm going to train that data. I'm going to train it for you and only ever you. The IP and the insights of that language model will only ever belong to you because it is deployed in your tenant, in your cluster, in our broader infrastructure. So that's the structure. The second piece behind that, it is machine learning with neural translation models. It is not generative AI. And again, that was an architecture choice to make sure that no data leakage or data residency concerns happen, just on top of the idea that generative AI models tend to hallucinate. So probabilistic models versus deterministic models are completely different. And the deterministic models, which is what we use as a machine learning background, really means that your data will only ever live in your specific tenant in your database with your custom model training, and it doesn't get shared with anybody else. So HIPAA. How does HIPAA really work? Well, number one, the structure of allowing us to have this multi-tenancy means we can be HIPAA compliant, which really means we can abstract PHI from the data record and make sure it is both identified. So if I'm on a call, I can say, my name is James Muir, my date of birth is 3/28/77, and I can identify that specific PHI, which PII is part of, and then I can mask it, which means identify it, and then also de-identify it or hash it out. So I can create that structure that allows us to create that compliance with HIPAA. We are SOC 2 Type 2 as an organization, and we have services live in Europe, so we can do GDPR as well. So GDPR, the big thing around data residency is it can't leave. So we have deployed servers in Germany, specifically to manage any interactions, as well as our telephony infrastructure lives out of Germany as well. So we can service all of the EU and be GDPR compliant. If you need to be specifically in the UK, we can have infrastructure there. If you want to do data residency in Canada, we can deploy there. Australia, we can deploy there. So it's also another deliverable is we have the flexibility because it is cloud-based to meet your compliance needs. Mostly people deploy in the United States, but we have clients in Europe, and we've been doing some work with some clients in Australia to set it up, and they all have very specific data residency requirements, which we're able to meet based on this architecture. So hopefully that answers the question.
I think that was a pretty thorough answer to that question, and I would agree that that's a concern, is data on the web with some companies out there. I'm afraid to search anything anymore because all that data is being collected. So having that separate cluster is definitely the way to go if you're going to use AI translation and transcription. Kevin, Terrell, anything else you want to add?
I was just going to say anything you put into ChatGPT, when OpenAI or DeepSeek or Anthropic or Llama, anything you share with them becomes part of their large language model, and you forfeit all rights to it. So that is the concern.
Is that going to be HIPAA compliant in that situation because of that danger of that information leaking?
Almost universally, no, although OpenAI does supposedly have a specific language model that is HIPAA compliant, but we have not been able to confirm that on our own yet, that it would work in that scenario.
Kevin, Jarrell, anything else you want to add before we move on to the next question?
No, that was great, James. I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that this opens a lot of doors for you because of those compliances. A lot of people are afraid to adopt this or to go there because they're going to be out of compliancy, which is tens of thousands of dollars. Now they don't have to worry about that. So it's an easier conversation for you guys to have.
All right, next question. Can you explain how Verbum Call facilitates real-time multilingual communication over the phone without the need for internet connectivity? That's a big surprise. I would have thought you had to have internet.
Cool thing is, all you need is a phone number and a phone. It's as simple and as easy as that. I can pick up my phone, dial my AI, and bridge in the AI on a three-way call. It's that simple. And it's that easy. I just need to know that phone number, either have a menu that I get to pick the two languages, or I have it hard-coded to German and English. It's that simple. James?
I would say specifically this was built to make sure we could help with our mission, which is make a more understanding world. And so how are you going to do that? So there is the ability to do this with simple telephony. I can provision you a phone number over good old PSTN lines, and you can use that to have this interaction. So you either call the person and you merge in the AI, or you call the AI and you merge in the person. All of that was built specifically to say there are parts of the world where there is no other option to still provide this service. That doesn't mean we don't have others, though. So if one of your clients is using NICE or Five9 or Genesis or iConnect and they want to do an API integration using the SDK, we can do that too. If they want to do, a custom creation of a text-to-text chat model out of a digital channel in NICE, we could definitely do that. So we can do something from provisioning a simple phone number all the way through complex integrations with Salesforce. All is capable with the platform the way it is created.
Trying to find something you can't do. You really have thought of everything when it comes to the product. And there are people that are going to be in more rural areas that don't have access to internet. And being able to do it over the telephone makes it very, very easy. And again, the whole idea is inclusivity and making sure that you can reach and your clients can reach you. Demonstration, the product demonstration, I'm really excited to have you show this because it relays to everybody the simplicity of how the product works and how easy it is and how frictionless and the customer experience that you can deliver, I think is critical. Trying to type things into a translation system and then read them back is this you're fumbling around, you're going to lose accuracy. This is just very intuitive. So James, I'm assuming you're going to want to share your screen. I'm going to go ahead and make you co-host. You can do that and
Yep.
The demo.
All righty here. Let me go ahead and share. Let me know you guys can see that.
Yep, you're live, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so this is our web demo portal. It really is just to allow to do a simple kind of demo, and you guys can see the technology in action. It is voice based, so this is actually a SIP call on the back end. But that way you'll be allowed to see the translation in real time, that real time transcription that is occurring based on the phone call. I will point out, as we've talked about, the 152 languages, it's really dialects, but I wanted to just kind of show you the list of dialects and again, why it matters. So if you're speaking Arabic, there's a fair difference between Jordanian and Egyptian Arabic. If you're speaking Chinese, there's a big difference between Cantonese and Mandarin, and then even a distinction between simplified and traditional for Taiwanese. So all of these things are deployed to give the level of specificity that really matters to support your customers. Again, I was born and raised in Michigan, although I live in Orlando now. So I'm going to go ahead and do good old English United States. If I chose English UK, it would still work, but we probably wouldn't get the level of accuracy that we're looking for. I'm going to make a phone call to one of my peers. She is from Venezuela, so I'm going to choose Spanish Venezuela, just to make sure we're capturing it right, because there's a distinction in how she says J, for example, versus H, and just how it works within Venezuela. We will have this custom greeting. Now, she is going to hear this in Spanish. You will actually not hear this. You will just hear Verbum Call say it's doing the welcome greeting. She will hear this in Spanish. So just to clarify, it is best practice to tell the folks involved with the call that there is an AI translator involved. So just a simple message at this point to say there is an AI translator and a live agent, and you should expect the interaction to go back and forth. So I will talk in English, the AI bot will speak in Spanish. Gina, who is a real person, will speak in Spanish, and you'll hear AI back in English, back and forth for me. Again, there won't be any delay. I don't have to schedule. I will just go ahead and make the phone call. Hopefully it didn't time me out. I had this open. Sometimes there's a security timeout. I'm going to go ahead and share over my cell phone today, though, and just make sure you guys can all hear. And let's do the call.
Welcome. This is Verbum Call Service. The application is connecting you with customer. Please wait. Customer is listening. Welcome message. Please wait.
Hi, good afternoon. This is James in customer service. How may I help you today?
Hola, buenas tardes. Soy James en servicio al cliente. ¿Cómo puedo ayudarlo hoy?
Buenas tardes, James. Estoy llamando porque necesito resetear mi password, ya que no puedo entrar a la aplicación.
Late James, I calling because I need to reset my password since I can't log into the app.
I can certainly help you with that. Can you give me your name and email address, please?
Ciertamente puedo ayudarlo con eso. ¿Puede darme su nombre y dirección de correo electrónico, por favor?
De acuerdo, mi nombre es Gina Dahan y mi correo electrónico es gina@gmail.com.
Okay, my name is Gina Tahajan and my email is gina@gmail.com.
One moment while I look that up.
Un momento mientras busco eso.
Okay, Miss Gina, I found your account and I'm going to send you a reset link so you can reset your password and get back in. Let me know when you receive it.
Ok, señorita Gina. Encontré su cuenta y le enviaré un enlace de restablecimiento para que pueda restablecer su contraseña y volver a entrar. Avíseme cuando la reciba.
Perfecto, ya lo recibí y ya pude entrar a la aplicación. Muchas gracias.
Perfect. I already received it and I was able to enter the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Gina, and have a nice day.
Well, remarkably fast.
Gracias, señorita Gina, y que tenga un buen día.
Great.
All right, obviously that was not the most complex of interactions ever, but I did want you guys to just see what an interaction would look like in a technical support setting. And I did have her give me some things like her name and her email address. It is context sensitive, so it will actually update what you're saying to give the correct pronunciation and translation back. The joke I like to give is I was doing lots of demos one day, and at the end of the day, I said, could you smell your name, S-M-E-L-L, instead of spell your name, S-P-E-L-L? But it is wise enough to know it's not going to ask the person to smell their name. If you use different contextual phrases like it's raining cats and dogs, it's going to say, okay, well, what are we really talking about? It's not going to actually do a literal translation of dogs and cats falling from the sky. It's going to say, okay, it's talking about weather, and we're going to say it's raining a lot. So those are contextual pieces that are built into the platform. Unless maybe you started talking about zoo animals first, and then maybe you said it's raining cats and dogs, it might confuse it at that point. But I think overall, you're going to be good because of the contextual allotment with each of the language pairs. They are trained in pairs. So we deploy as a training to do the level of accuracy. You would say, okay, I'm going to do English United States and Spanish Venezuela, and I'm going to train in that direction. And then I'm going to train Spanish Venezuela back to English. And that's just as important. In some cases, it's actually even more important for us to focus on what are the pronunciation and dialect specific concerns of the Venezuelan Spanish language, and how do I encapsulate that and make sure I get that pronunciation back to the English correctly. And that's going to be things like within your custom data dictionary, I might phonetically have to spell some words out and then put that into the training model just to make sure that that level of accuracy is there. One of the things I do want to point out is this is post-call. It would have been here right away. It's going to take just a second to load because I do a whole bunch of demos. But within a few seconds of the call ending, we'll actually have access to the transcription. And so this was the call we just made. This was me. This was Gina. This is our language pairs. This is our base scoring. So within that interaction, it actually gave us an 85%. I felt like it was better than that, but it's a tough.
It was better than that too.
It's a tough grader at the end of the day because we do want to create that level of accuracy. And then, like I said, I can go ahead and just within seconds, hopefully that downloaded.
You mentioned that human beings will register 85% as being excellent. They won't have any
anything. anything in the mid 80s, they'll feel like that's more than a usable interaction. So you can get upper 80s, low 90s, mid 90s, which that's possible with our tunings. But see, what's important about the transcription, what a lot of other companies and just even like large CCASs can't do, is they can't do both halves of the conversation in a diaritized manner. So if you'll see, I had the conversation, I spoke in English, here was my Spanish translation back to Gina, here was Gina talking to me, here was, say if there was an error, it was here, because she said Buenas tardes and it didn't capture the Buenas. So I think that's probably why our 85 came out. But for the rest of the conversation, it seemed to go pretty well. It captured her name fine, it captured her email fine. All of those things came across pretty well. But again, within structure. So I'll give you an example of something we could do from a nuance training perspective. So it came back with a semi-informal miss, Gina, M-I-S-S. But those are the kind of things we can say, okay, in this interaction, I want to make sure that all of my Spanish translations back to English have more formality of tone, and it should have said MS instead of MISS. But that's the level of specificity I can build into the model we deploy for you. Whereas in the general model, it just gave us a little bit more of an informal miss. But hopefully that gives you some of the detail you were all looking for today. What questions might you have on the product?
Yeah, please enter your questions in the chat and we'll have James, Jarrell, and Kevin answer directly if you don't mind. While we're waiting for those questions to be entered into the chat, James, what are some of the benefits of the transcription? I mean, that seems to be one of the big advantages of the One Meta service is that you do have a transcription, you do provide that record. Not most companies don't. I don't know if any of them do, quite frankly. But what's the benefit? What are some of the applications that would help to have a transcription?
So to me, this is a selfish answer. The transcript allows me to feed the machine, so I can take the transcript and use it in the machine learning scenario and create better accuracy within the deployment of the tool. So some clients have chosen not to deploy transcripts for legal reasons. And so those, we do our best to train the models, but it's not as fast of a ramp up from an accuracy perspective. So selfishly, I like the transcripts. It helps me train the models faster. It creates a better user experience. From a user perspective, though, what a company might want, so they get to QA the transaction in and of itself. So they get to see whether or not the accuracy of the translation was what they would hope to do. But they also get to take that and do insights. So who were these people that called? What were they talking about? How are they managed in their own native language? And if you have other AI tools for summarization and or different product analysis ideas, you can take this transcript and actually feed it into that type of third-party tool and create even more business insights for you that you might not have if you didn't have this transcript that was actually in both target languages, which, like we talked about, there really no one else that's doing it quite how we're doing it in a diaritized manner, but you can do transcripts in certain instances. But a lot of the transcripts that you would get for multilingual communication in some of the big CCASs, their accuracy is somewhere around 65 to 70%, which makes it almost unusable. If every third or fourth word is inaccurate, it's just not usable from a business context perspective. And your conversation with your user just turned into just a frustrating experience versus a good user experience.
Yeah, we found also healthcare documentation of transcription being put in the patient's records was an important thing for our healthcare professionals. Bill here has a question. He wanted to know if any mobile app is available for real-time translation during a conversation in a face-to-face meeting.
So we don't have an Android app or an iOS app. We do have a web-based app you could use to do this kind of activity. We just haven't had a need really. No one has brought to us the need for an Android app that a web app couldn't, or an iOS app that the web app couldn't take care of. But we actually have a specific web-based version of this that allows you to pick 2 languages, and then you can either do either text or speech to text to make it work. So we could, at another time, we could do a demo on that product as well.
Great. Appreciate the answer. Anybody else have a question for the experts? I think that concludes our questions. Anything else you want to add before we move on, James?
I feel like I'm talking a lot, Jarrell or Kevin. Anything you guys want to add?
No, I think that was fantastic, James. Really good information, and you were very, succinct and showed the product really well. So, Yeah, just Rob, I want to thank you for the time, and it was great to be able to speak with everyone, and I really do appreciate it.
If there's anyone out there who would like to speak to an expert on the AI translation and transcription services available from 1Meta, please give myself a call or email me. We'll put you on the phone with James and his team to help you better understand the products and how they work and how they would apply in your particular industry. Gang, it's been a pleasure to spend time with you, Kevin and Jarrell and James. You obviously brought a lot of insights into what's happening. AI is changing the world, and the impact on global communication that you're making it with 1Meta has been nothing short of revolutionary. So thanks again for spending an hour with us today. And please reach out to us if we can help you with your particular solution and bring some experts to discuss how we can help. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll be here next month. Every third Tuesday of the month, we have another service that we'll be introducing you to that's somewhat unique or very unique in many cases. And next month, we have a product that is unavailable anywhere else and is exclusive to us. And it's AI help desk. And again, AI is changing the face of technology, and help desk is an area where we can definitely drive cost savings, improved efficiencies, and improve customer experience, which are the three things we're always trying to help our clients with. So thanks for joining us, and make sure you join us next month for our next virtual roundtable. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Rob.